Hi everybody, this is Dean Kobayashi from the NS Stick channel. In today's episode I'm going to actually change my strings. I figured something that not everybody sees all the time, and especially for new people, this might be something intimidating, but it's actually a pretty simple process. And I figured I'd give some tips and tricks that I've come across as I've been doing stick string changes for a little bit. So I hope this information comes in handy. First question is, when should you change your strings, and how often do people do it? Well, I do it probably about every 6 months. That's about my rate, so twice a year. I think on the Stick Enterprises manual, the operator's manual, says about every 4 months. And it just all depends. There's as these strings get older, they get more dead sounding, and then also as you use the strings, they also don't hold and stay in tune anymore. It might be okay in the open string, but when you tap up higher, it's not going to stay in tune. There's a video by Don Schiff that goes over this, and he explains that when the string just has the right kind of deadness, it's got the percussiveness that you like, but still has life. He calls those vampire strings. So anyway, check out his video, and I'll put the link below. But for me, I found that after a while, I just noticed that the string's just not sounding that great. It's not getting this original tone that I've been getting when I had first originally had them on. So that's when I changed them. Of course, when you first put them on, they're super bright, and so it seems like the sweet spot of them is about maybe a day or two later. It seems to settle in real nicely at that point. But even if it is a little bright, just turn down the treble a little bit, and you should be all good. And it shouldn't really annoy you too much. So let's get started with doing the string change. Things you need. You want to make sure you have the right tool, the right hex wrench. There's only one place that you'll need the tool for, is right here on the when you put it in here to lock the string in. And you also want some kind of wire cutters, something a little sturdier than just some really just not the real small ones. All right, here's a pair I have, and they're actually not the right ones to use. You want to get one that are sturdier, because if you cut with these, you're just going to ruin these just for the first snip that you do. But I've already been doing it for so long that I don't really care about these anymore, so I'm just going to use these. But finding something nice and slimmer is good. Something that you can get the flat edge in to the space where you'll be cutting them on the back side. Getting it nice and flat cut in there is nice, because if you have it sticking out, sometimes you get your finger in there or something, it can be a little painful. So I try to cut it as flat as possible, so that if I do ever get my fingers in here, I don't hurt myself. So that's just a little tip on that. And then of course you want to get the strings, and just go to Stick Enterprises website. Highly recommend the stick strings. Emmett's done a lot of research into it, and they have their own set of strings which sound great. Stick Enterprises now has two sets. This is the heavy gauge, and they also have a medium gauge or a lighter gauge. I can't remember what it's called, but if you've been using the NS for a long time, it was just one set of strings, and apparently this is the one, the heavy gauge. It used to be called heavy/medium, but the heavy gauge is the one they've always been doing, and then they just came out with a lighter gauge. So it's up to your taste on which one you like, but I've really liked these, and it just sounds great. So I guess let's just get going. Of course, all you have to do is to just tune your string down as far as it'll go. It pops right out. It's just really just sitting in there, so it comes right out. And then we'll use the hex wrench to loosen this. I'll bring this down here. right here. And I do mine one string at a time. I know people have done it, maybe all strings at one time because they want to get in and clean the fretboard. I guess that's okay. I just personally like to just do one string at a time. Of course, this is a good time if you do have a cloth or something to go ahead and get some of that dust off, clean off some of that finger jam off of here. This seems to be pretty clean, so I'm not going to worry about that. So I get my next string, my first string out, and actually when you get them from Stick Enterprises, it kind of comes like this. There's one set of I think it's 6 of the strings are in here, and then 2 more over here, and they number them. This one's numbered 7th and 8th. So I'm going to use the 8th string, unwind it, go straight, and then, so what you want to do is just also, watch out when you're swinging this thing around. You can scratch your body, and probably don't want to do that. But so let's go ahead and just stick the end into the saddle right there. And at this point, you don't have to worry about trying to route it over the saddle, trying to snake it through or anything like that. You can just hold it in with your thumb or something, but actually if you just keep a little bit of tension on it, it'll stay in there. And then I'll show you the other end here. I'm just going to bend it down and snake it through. And I'm going to open up this hole a little bit more because it just makes it a little easier. So I'm just holding a little tension here while I do this. Now, this string, you can see it's still got a little bit of a bow out there, but not to worry. It's going to still have a lot of tension in it. When you do put the tension on, it'll bend right in. One interesting thing that happened to me at one point was that this string, the taper, there's a taper on the other end here as well, that it didn't have it. It actually went all the way around, so it was super thick all the way around. And in order to accommodate for that, I couldn't get the string to bend in and push it in far enough to get enough of a bend on it. And I was like, what am I going to do? So actually what I figured out I could do is kind of figure out how long of where you're going to actually do this bend at, and then I stuck this end first to where I was going to have the bend, and then string it out and then put it into the other end. So that was something I had to come up with for that when that happened to me. That was only happened to me once, but even in this situation you might want to do that if you want to make sure you have more get so you don't have to pull it back as far when you're tuning it on the tuning machine. But like I said, if you've got the taper on this end, you're really not going to have any issues. So then we go ahead and tighten this down. Let's use the other hand. One thing to think about also is on this string it's not such a big deal, but as you're going through the other strings, they're thinner and the holes are, pretty much the same size. There we go. You want to make sure that's nice and tight in there. But as you know, these strings, they kind of come through and snake through the these pegs here from the nut through this part, and it probably doesn't make much a difference if this happens or not, but you can see one of my strings right here, it actually doesn't kind of get a nice wrap around there. It's just visually not that pleasing, but you are still getting that angle from here to the next to there, then that's really where you need the angle at. But just to make sure that it is actually getting a good wrap around, I would try to, when I do it this time, I'm going to make sure that string is pushed over, and it's going to get, just like the other strings, a nice snake kind of S shape through it. So just something to look out for. So okay, so I've got the big string in there, the first string. It's seated right there, and as you can see, without my finger there or anything, it's staying just fine. And then I'm gonna it did pop out, but not to worry. And then, so if it does pop out, just put it back in, and then I'm gonna hold it actually while I snake that part around the bridge, that one right there, and I'm just going to go ahead and tighten it down, so it's just like, tuning up, I guess. Here we go. So I've just did a few turns, not much on this end, and it's already come down quite a bit right here, so you can tell it doesn't take much. And then now I'm going to snake this through. Maybe I should have done that a little earlier, because actually it's a little hard. There we go. All right. So you can see I've got a nice S shape all the way through here. And then just tune it. Get to a good place. It doesn't, you don't have to get really into tune. And then we're going to cut the excess that's just sticking out here. So what I do is I just get right in there with this, nice and flush against the top, and there we go. And that's pretty much it. Honestly, it's just keeping out for those few points, get a good snake through here, make sure it's not popping out of here, and it's just around the bridge pole right here. So I'm just going to continue on with all the other strings now, and yeah, well, let's see what happens here. All right, so I've finished changing all the strings now, and during the string change, something I did come across and I think is a good pointer is don't cut the string until you've actually put it on and tuned it to make sure it's holding the string in there properly. I had to redo my last string here, the first string, or the highest pitched string, several times, and what was happening was I would tune it, and then as I'm tuning it, I hear it go up, 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 da, 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 and I can hear it just detune itself. It's so weird, and I don't see any defects in the string or anything. And so the logical place was that the nut wasn't holding it properly, so it took me a few tries to actually get that right. Something to remember about this specific instrument is that it is one of the prototype instruments that Emmett built, and so maybe it's an issue that's not on the production models, but it's just something to watch out for. And so you can see I've actually left this string still in here because I'm just going to double check, make sure it's holding the tuning in a little bit here, and I don't see any issues right now, and I'm sure it's going to be fine, but it's just something to watch out for. So again, just don't cut your string off until after you've made sure that that string is holding on, because once you cut it and then there's really no way to kind of just pull that string through if you need to do something like that. But what I ended up doing was to make sure that in the hole that when the string is coming over and through, it's going through the middle part of the hole and not onto one of the edges of the hole, so that we can make sure that when that nut is being screwed down, that it's pushing right against the string instead of like kind of off to the side or anything. And it's holding the tuning just fine right now. So I think we're going to be okay there. Just something to watch out for. So I've changed the strings, and actually they feel really nice on here. They're very bouncy. I like that. A little bright, just listening to it. But I think I like this much better than dead, lifeless strings. It's just my personal preference. A lot of people like the more percussive dead sound of a bass string, and that's just their style. But personally, I do like to have a little brilliance to it, and a little bit more definition to the sound, and that's just me. I am going to check the truss rod on this, but I'm going to do that on a separate video, because I know that's something that a lot of people, a lot of stick players are always worried about, adjusting the truss, especially if you're coming from a guitar or bass guitar background. It's something you almost never touch on your own, and you really should. Even on a guitar or a bass guitar, I think it's something that you should learn how to do, because it's really not that hard, and especially on this instrument, when you want to make sure your neck is straight, that's when it plays the best. And so anyway, we'll do that on the next video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave questions in the comments section below, and I'll get back to you. If I really am doing something wrong, please let me know as well. And I just hope that this helps people out. And you know, if you've been a little afraid of changing strings on your stick instrument or on your NS stick, I hope this kind of gives you the courage to be like, oh, hey, it really isn't that bad. Just take your time and just approach it with one string at a time. You shouldn't have any issues. So thank you very much, and have a great day.